E3 is upon us once more, and today I'm going to be looking at EA's press conference. I'm going to be going over what they announced, what they unveiled, and giving my thoughts on it. So this is the first conference so far of E3, and so far I think it's safe to say the bar's been set pretty low. I think the likes of Microsoft, Sony, Bethesda will all be feeling pretty confident compared to what EA showed. It was a pretty, at best, meh conference, at worst, bullshit conference, to be honest. I haven't seen many people who have been impressed by it, and now we're going to go through each announcement piece by piece, see what was good, see what was bad, and what we could expect from EA for the next year coming. So, first up, we got a look at Battlefield 5. Now, Battlefield 5 was announced 2 weeks ago, I believe, and it's going to be set during World War II. We saw a little teaser trailer, kind of an in-game footage, if you like, sort of in-engine footage rather, showing it off, and it looked pretty interesting. They announced there will be a single player, unlike this year's Call of Duty, as well as obviously the expansive multiplayer. Now, it seems like we're going to see a lot more of Battlefield 5 during Microsoft's E3 conference, so we didn't see that much from EA, given that it is their game, but I think we'll definitely see more from Microsoft. So, hold steady if you're a Battlefield fan who wants more. Now, EA did release a few new details. For instance, on the battlefield now, you're going to be able to move defensive weapons. So, for instance, if bomber planes are attacking an objective, you can lug over some anti-air guns and fire away at them. So that should add a kind of extra level of tactical play to the game. There's improved destruction to the environment that we've seen. Battlefield has always been known for being very destructible, unlike Call of Duty. And again, they're just improving that and keeping it going. So there's really not going to be anywhere to hide from tanks. There'll be a lot of customization. You'll be able to customize your player character, the vehicles you drive in, your weapons. So it looks like people who love, go deep into menus and, making their character look distinct on the battlefield. There's going to be plenty for them to do. As I said, there will be single player with Battlefield 5, whereas Call of Duty is just going to have online this year's iteration. It seems similar to Battlefield 1 from what we saw, in that it'll be like war stories that focuses on different characters, but obviously this time during World War II. It was announced that there's going to be a Battle Royale mode. Jesus, what game doesn't have a Battle Royale mode nowadays? Call of Duty's also announced a Battle Royale mode in place of a single player, whereas Battlefield, we're getting single player and a Battle Royale mode. So, honestly, I don't like this trend of all games jumping on the Battle Royale mode, but to be honest, when it comes to Battlefield, I don't really mind because it's a new way to play as well as all the old ways. They're not, replacing something else with Battle Royale. It's just, an added treat. So we'll see how that turns out. It could be good. Call of Duty seems odd to go into Battle Royale because they have smaller maps, traditionally speaking, whereas Battlefield's always had very large maps, so perhaps that could work. Who knows? We'll see. But, everyone's getting on top of that now. And last but not least, it's been announced there will be no loot boxes in the game and no premium pass. Now, EA, has such a bad reputation these days, and Star Wars Battlefront 2 was such a shit show last year that, I don't trust them at all. But they've said no loot boxes in Battlefield 5 and no premium pass. I hope that doesn't mean they're going to try and just screw us another way. But this is EA, so I won't be holding my breath. But still, I've got to say, this game, Battlefield, it does look good. I enjoyed Battlefield 1. And I'm intrigued by this, certainly. Certainly more than Call of Duty's latest offer. Next up, we had FIFA 19. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound elitist, but who really cares at E3 about seeing annual sports games? I know that FIFA is a massive moneymaker for EA and sells a ridiculous number of copies every year. But my point is this, I don't think that most FIFA players tune into E3. It's a very kind of casual game that people who are into sports pick up, and that would be like the only game they buy and play all year for the most part. And I don't think those people are staying up depending on their time zones, to the early hours of the morning to tune into the latest on FIFA 19 and watching all the other conferences. So I've got to be honest, this really bored the shit out of me. I'm sorry if you like it, but again, there wasn't even that much news, and I'm sick of these the way they big it up like these people are warriors going into battle. It's sport, okay? I'm not saying there isn't skill to it, but you kick a ball around. You're not saving the world. Anyway, have I just alienated my audience? Maybe. Anyway, they showed off a new trailer. There's going to be a Champions League added to it. And right now, if you're intrigued, FIFA 18 has a free trial available. And that was about what they announced for FIFA 19. I mean, it looks good if you like FIFA. But, these annual sports games, it's the same shit, different year, isn't it? There's some things are added, some things are taken away. That's the sports game you play with your friends for the rest of the year until the next release. I mean, I really don't think many people at E3 are watching, were really anticipating to see the latest in FIFA. So there you go. I'm sorry if I'm a curmudgeon there, but does anyone give a shit? You could say EA's conference was very vague. There was a lot of stuff they unveiled and told us about that they didn't actually show us, and this is a prime example of that. EA Cloud Streaming. So basically the idea is EA Access is a kind of Netflix type thing available at the moment, where you pay a sum every month or every year and you get access to EA's library of games. So this new EA Cloud Streaming will be available on multiple devices, but it's not out yet, and they didn't really show us it. But it seems like it'll be something you can access on your PC, on your phone, that kind of thing. There's going to be new titles. It's coming to PC, so now for the first time on your PC, or the first time in years, you'll be able to play many games that haven't been available on PC. And there's going to be access to a vault of over 100 games from EA and certain partners of theirs, some other people. So I mean, it should be a decent selection, I suppose. It's going to be out this summer and will be $15 a month or $100 for an annual subscription. Now, it's interesting, this thing. If it was anyone else but EA, I'd be more positive about it. But given that it is EA, I'm not. I don't dislike this kind of on-demand Netflix type service for video games. It's quite possible that that is the future we're looking at. I just hope it's done correctly and right. And as I say, I don't trust EA to do that, although they are one of the few people really spearheading that at the moment, along with Microsoft with Game Pass. But again, this is very vague. I mean, there's nothing particularly awful sounding about it so far. But as I say, the details were so lacking. They just kind of said, this is a thing that's coming. It'll be here in the summer, and I guess we'll just have to see. So don't hold your breath. But yeah, if you're interested in that, it looks like EA is still focused on bringing cloud streaming titles to gamers. And then EA graced us with one of the weirdest announcements I've ever seen at an E3 conference. It was very peculiar. So EA has a big new Star Wars game to reveal to us all. Did they show off an amazing trailer or have people on stage talking about it? No, they just got the host to go down and talk to one of the guys at Respawn, the developer that previously worked on the Titanfall series, to basically just announce it in a very low-key kind of manner. And the guy himself kind of reminded me of Bill Murray. Did anyone else get that vibe from him? I don't know, it's like he just couldn't take any of it seriously. But anyway, like, it's so odd. A new Star Wars game is coming to us from the guys at Respawn. I feel like that should be big news, and yet it was such a strange announcement. So basically, Respawn is working on a game called Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So yeah, that's a game. And it's going to be set between episodes 3 and 4 during the quote-unquote dark times, I guess, when the Jedi were being hunted by Darth Vader and the clones after Order 66. It's set to be released holiday 2019, and we saw no footage of it, not even a title card, not even some concept art. It was just this guy with his Bill Murray-like sense of humour. just just giving the vaguest information you could. I mean, this is a Star Wars game. It's meant to be a bang. It's, remember when they announced the reboot of the Battlefront franchise? It was big. It was bombastic. It's Star Wars, and yet this was just a guy wearing a trucker hat. Just I don't know. I liked him, but it was so odd. And I mean, holiday 2019, so that's only a year and a bit away. You'd think there'd be something to show. Surely this game has been in development for quite some time, but nope, not a sausage. So yeah, I mean, Star Wars fans look forward to that, but so far there's really nothing to get excited for. Seems like a very peculiar way to announce a big new game, like based on a franchise like Star Wars. It was so low key, but hey, I mean, props to the presenter. She did a great job of rolling with it, because I'm not sure I could have gone with those kind of punches. But yeah, Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order. Look forward to it, I suppose. And then came a an appearance from someone we really didn't think we were going to be seeing. Star Wars Battlefront 2. I mean, just the most hated game of 2017, surely. I mean, no one expected they were going to dare bring that up. You'd think they'd want to just bury that and move on. But no, credit where credit's due. They're going to stick with it, and, I they seem to want to try and make things right. Again, it's EA, so I fucking doubt it. But, they got a guy out, and I imagine they just kicked him out, went, "You're going, no, you're going, no, you're going, get out there." But anyway, he came on, and the first thing he did was admitted that Star Wars Battlefront 2 was flawed, which, credit where credit's due, they saw that. But then they admitted that the original reboot of Star Wars Battlefront was flawed and said they were going to make it better, and they fucking didn't. So, but they acknowledged they were shit. But don't worry, everybody, because more content is coming based on the Han Solo movie that came out recently that no one saw. And, there's going to be young Lando and young Han and young Chewie added to the roster. So if you're still somehow playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, then you can look forward to that. There's going to be a new squad system added, so it's easier to play with your friends if you've got friends who still play it. A new mode called Starfighter's coming, so if you're into space combat, you can play around with that. And then fairly big news, Clone Wars content is coming, so you'll be able to play battles from the Clone Wars era. There's going to be new heroes, General Grievous, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Count Dooku, and Anakin Skywalker from that period of the Star Wars franchise. And a new map is coming called Geonosis, which has loads of levels and will be apparently the largest map available so far on Star Wars Battlefront. So again, if you're someone who is still somehow playing this game, I don't know anyone that is, but if you are and you haven't thrown it away, then you might look forward to that. I'm sorry, I appreciate I'm being very negative, but I mean, how, EA, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, go fuck yourself. So yeah, they brought out Star Wars Battlefront 2 probably just to reassure Disney that they're still going to make money off of it, but who knows anyway. So yeah, we got to see that, thank God. And then came the Point of Ease conference that I actually thought was pretty decent, and it came in the form of the indie titles they helped put out. And who'd have thought that a greedy corporation like EA wouldn't completely ruin the precious games made by indie developers? But the truth is, they actually don't seem to meddle too much in them. We've seen Unravel, we've seen A Way Out, both great games that came out and were very consumer friendly and very much worth playing. So I feel like we can be somewhat optimistic about these upcoming indies. First up, we had the announcement of Unravel 2. Now, I really enjoyed the first Unravel game. It was so wholesome and just a really enjoyable game. I thought Yarny was so cute. And yeah, I'm very interested by Unravel 2. It's going to be a co-op game, but can be played in single player. So now Yarny is joined by another little fellow made out of thread, and two players can work together to overcome levels, or you can just play yourself. Hopefully, the playing single player, it will still be an enjoyable experience, that you don't feel like you've been lumped with a partner that you don't want. But I'm sure the developers thought of that. And again, I think it could be a game that is really fun for people to play together. Unravel's a very wholesome game, And I can imagine, parents playing this with their kids, or friends and playing this together. I can totally see why they went down a co-op route with the sequel. Let's hope EA doesn't mess with it. To be fair, they haven't messed with recent indie games, so credit where credit's due there. And then the surprise announcement is it's out right now. I've checked. I went on PSN. It's available to play right now. So if you loved Unravel, you could go and play it right now. It was $15.99 in British pounds for me. I imagine it's about the same in other territories. So yeah, go play it right now. Fair play EA, that was a pretty decent announcement there. We got to see some gameplay of it. It looked just as good as the first one. So yeah, credit where credit's due. Unravel 2 looks pretty good. The next indie game we got to have a look at is called Sea of Solitude, and I think for me this was my highlight of EA's conference. It genuinely looks like a really interesting game, and I loved the way they presented it. The writer came on and she was telling us about it over gameplay, and she seemed really passionate about it in the same way that the guy was when the first Unravel was revealed to us. So Sea of Solitude, or SOS, is a game that is centered around the feeling of loneliness. It's a fantasy setting but based on a real story, and basically we will follow this girl who lives in a world where loneliness can turn people into monsters, and this girl has herself begun to turn into a monster, and players must figure out what happened to her and then help her in order to make her human again. I feel like it's a very heartfelt game. I feel like this is a game that will mean something, and will really be a talking point for gamers. I think we could get a lot of think pieces from this. Games like this don't come along very often, and I think it could be a real stepping stone for gaming. A chance for video games to show how they can approach difficult topics like loneliness and sadness. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this. Unfortunately, unlike Unravel 2, it's not available now. It's coming in early 2019, so early of next year, spring maybe. And yeah, this one again, I'm really looking forward to. EA doesn't seem to meddle much with the indie developers it has working for it, so hopefully, Sea of Solitude and Unravel 2 aren't full of microtransactions. But yeah, Sea of Solitude, that was a highlight for me, and I'm really looking forward to it. If you thought I was getting a bit optimistic then don't worry, the curmudgeon is now back in the house. We got to see Madden, and like FIFA, I couldn't give less of a fuck. So, it's the Australian American version of FIFA, essentially. American football. And what's more to say about it, really? I think most people that play Madden do not tune into E3. I don't think anyone interested in E3 is particularly interested in Madden. And then they were showing off some of the esports centered around it. Some guy came up stage wearing like this massive belt on his shoulder. He didn't seem annoying at all. And yeah, they just showed off some gameplay and stuff like that, and I pretty much lost the will to live about that point. Then came an announcement that really seemed to tick a lot of people off. It was presented as this new mobile game, a tactical mobile game. People can play against one another. There was an incredibly long and boring bit where we saw two gamers going head to head against each other. It was tedious to watch, I've got to be honest. And it was then revealed at the end that this is a Command and Conquer mobile game called Command and Conquer Rivals. Now, I'm not really a big fan of Command and Conquer. To be honest, I've never played it, but I know it certainly has its fan base. And from what I've seen online, a lot of Command and Conquer fans are pretty pissed off about this announcement. The series has been on ice for a while. I'm sure they'd have loved to see, a new full-fledged AAA Command and Conquer game, but instead they got this mobile game, which, let's be honest, is going to be full of microtransactions. Is a low-effort way for EA to rake in a load of money, and I could completely see why fans are disappointed. Sorry, and I don't think this is going to be a particularly successful mobile game, but it'll probably break even and make EA a tidy sum. And again, it was tedious to watch. Like Battlefield got less time than Command and Conquer Rivals, a mobile game. I mean, come on EA, where are your priorities here? And then to close their conference, EA gave us a good, meaty look at Anthem. This game was announced at E3 last year, and it very much seems like EA's take on Destiny, for whatever that's worth. I've never been a big Destiny guy, but there's no denying it's a huge force in gaming, despite its many flaws, and, EA wants something similar that they can have as their brand. So we got to see a new trailer. It featured a lot of gameplay, and I've got to say, when I saw the first reveal trailer back at last year's E3, and we kind of saw gameplay, but it just looked so ambitious. You were like, how real is this? But I've got to say, it did look real. I mean, it did look like they delivered what was promised in the initial trailer. It does appear to be a massive open world, and basically, kind of like Destiny, you'll be able to team up with your friends to take on missions and explore and fight bad guys, but apparently there will also be single player hubs in the world, and the impression I get is that they're really trying to meld this idea of a single player, the quality of a single player RPG, with the fun of being able to team up with your friends in multiplayer. Now, only time will tell if they manage to achieve that, but that seems to be the goal. And I've got to say, it was impressive to watch. It really was. There's going to be 4 suit classes that you wear, these kind of mech suits called javelins, and you'll be able to change on the fly, so you're not limited to choosing a class at the beginning of the game and being stuck with it. You can change and adapt how you want to play. Now, this game is being spearheaded by BioWare, who have been known in the past for their great deep RPGs, but more recently have really fallen out of favour ever since kind of Dragon Age Inquisition, which wasn't terrible, but not up to their usual standards. And then, of course, Mass Effect Andromeda was just an absolute shit show. So I really feel like this could be BioWare's last chance to save their reputation. And if they pull it off with this, then I think they certainly will have. Now, apparently there's going to be no loot boxes, supposedly, and no gameplay related microtransactions. It will all be cosmetic. So there will be microtransactions for cosmetic items, but it won't affect gameplay, or at least that's what they're saying at the moment. The game can apparently be played on your own. If you don't like playing multiplayer, you can play through it as a single player game, but obviously it will be a bit tougher where you don't have your pals backing you up. We saw a gameplay demo. As I say, it looked very good. I mean, obviously we're only seeing what they want us to see, but I've got to admit, I'm very cautious about getting on board with this game, but I will admit what we've seen has looked very impressive. A release date has also been announced for it, February 22nd, 2019, which incidentally is the same date that the PlayStation 4 exclusive Days Gone is set to be released. Now, it seems very possible to me that Anthem will be delayed. Especially, they showed us a lot of concept art during the presentation, rather than gameplay. Although we did see some gameplay, but there was a lot of concept art, which makes me think maybe there's not that much to show yet, or at least not finished stuff to show. Which again makes me think it's very possible this game could be delayed. I will be surprised if a game this ambitious isn't delayed. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a pain when games are delayed, but I'd rather a game be released and be great than it be released and full of bugs. And given the shit show that was Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm sure EA are eager to make sure this game is very polished before it hits shelves. So, yeah, I mean, this was the longest thing we saw from EA. I think it was like 20 minutes. And it did look very impressive, I will say that. But again, guys, this is EA, isn't it? And it seems like every year they fuck it up, and every year at E3 they go, oh, we've learned, there's not going to be microtransactions in our next game, and then it's even worse the next time, Remember when Star Wars Battlefront came out, and it was alright, but not great, and they announced Star Wars Battlefront 2 when, there's going to be, all the DLC will be free, it's going to be great. And then that was an even bigger shit show than the first Battlefront. So, I have no trust for EA at this point. No trust whatsoever. But, one can live in hope, and here's hoping that Anthem is worth a look in. I got the sense that there was a lot of damage control going on in this year's E3 conference. They had that bit where they said they partnered up with the anti-bullying charity, which, don't get me wrong, is great, but it's kind of like EA going, oh yeah, don't focus on our mistakes because we're giving all this money to charity, and it's like, you're a gaming company, pull your fucking finger out. But still, I was watching Angry Joe. He put up a video recently about the Command and Conquer reveal, and he said something I thought was very insightful. He said this EA conference felt like they were talking to their investors rather than to gamers, and I think that's a really good point. So big shout out to Angry Joe there for picking up on that. I do feel like they were more trying to kind of wink at their investors and go, don't worry, we're making all the right moves now. We're going to be rolling in money again soon. I feel like they were really just stroking their egos rather than trying to appeal to us gamers. So, again, I don't think it was an impressive showing. Hopefully, it was by far the worst conference we're going to see over the next few days. The bar's pretty low. If I imagine Sony and Bethesda and Microsoft and such feeling pretty confident, I mean, they'd have to have a pretty bad lineup for them to be worse than EA. So here's hoping that we just got the worst out first, and it's going to be all great from here. And last but not least, no Skate 4, EA. No Skate 4. Do you hate money or something? Oh, you know what? I don't even want Skate 4 anymore, because if they announced it, you just know it'd be full of loot boxes and, oh, you want a new pair of wheels? Well, pay me now. I don't care you paid for the game. Pay me more. Pay me for new wheels. Pay me for new decks. So who even cares at this point? But, seriously, Skate 4, EA. Come on, chop chop.